Okay guys, so I'm going to share 4 meals with you today. The first is manicotti, butter bread, salad, and asparagus. We took 2 pounds of ground beef. We cooked it in a pan with some Italian seasoning. When the meat was done cooking, we drained off the excess grease because there was quite a bit, because I bought cheaper hamburger meat because hamburger meat is so expensive right now. So anyways, I'm just going to chop and cook on this for a little bit, and then when it gets closer to done, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of garlic. And we chopped up about half a bag of fresh spinach. You could use frozen or canned if you wanted to, but we had fresh spinach in the fridge, so that's what we used. Okay, so there's the garlic. We're adding the spinach, and again, I'm just going to chop on this and cook on it until the spinach kind of gets cooked in, but not to the point of soggy. And after I get this kind of stirred around, we are going to add a 16-ounce can of diced tomatoes that I kind of drained most of the liquid out of, and gonna let that kind of cook with the spinach and the meat. I'm also going to add some more Italian seasoning. I say a little, you might think that's a lot, but anyways, probably like 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. So after I get this stirred and I add the tomatoes, I'm also going to add about 1.5 cups of cottage cheese. You could use feta or whatever you like, but cottage cheese is cheaper, so we use cottage cheese. We use cottage cheese in our lasagna too. So anyways, we're going to get these tomatoes mixed in. I'll show you how much cottage cheese I'm putting in here. It's like, I don't know, 1/3 of the container. And when I add the cottage cheese, I'm turning the stove off, and I'm just going to let it sit and cool down after I get it all mixed together. And when it's cool enough, I'm going to add about a handful of shredded Munster cheese and then get it mixed up, and we will start stuffing our shells. We do not pre-cook them. We cook them when we put them in the oven or in the slow cooker. So it's just easier to stuff them that way for us. And I mean, as long as you have pasta sauce in your manicotti when it's cooking, your noodles are going to cook in the oven. So anyways, now that it is cool, we've added the cheese, and Mika is going to start stuffing up all these shells. I showed her on the first one, and then she took off, and she did pretty much all the rest of them by herself. So anyways, I poured a can of tomato sauce in the bottom. We're going to layer shells on there, and then after each layer of shells, I'm going to pour some sauce, and then a layer of shredded cheese, and then we'll put another layer until we have none left. And we'll top it with some cheese and some sliced up olives. Okay, so here we have the first layer done. I'm just showing you that I put down that tomato garlic sauce and the tomato sauce that I'd put on the bottom. Here we have the second layer done. I am adding the rest of that tomato garlic sauce, and then I'm going to add some more cheese. We have we put Munster cheese in the mixture itself, but we are mixing Munster and mozzarella, and that's what's going on the top of each layer. Once we get done and we have all of it covered up and ready to go with the cheese and the olives and everything, what we do is we put it in the oven at 350 for an hour, or in this case, I'm going to use the Kasori slow cooker, set it for 350 for an hour, and then I'll come check it. I will just poke a knife through one of the noodles. You can tell if the noodles are soft or still kind of crunchy. If they're still kind of crunchy, I just let it cook another 10-15 minutes. And if they are soft, then I just set it to warm. So anyways, here we go with the last layer of cheese and sauce, and we're going to get the olives added to the top now. To go with this, I made the dough that I make when I make butter rolls, but we just put it in a bread pan and baked it just to make it quick and easy instead of making the rolls themselves. And we bake that. I will share the recipe for that in the description box below in case you want to make that bread. And then as for salad, we picked a lettuce from the garden, and we had some olives and tomatoes and various things for toppings, and everybody kind of put what they wanted on their salads, and if they didn't want it, they didn't put it on their salad. And then the other day, my aunt went to like a picket farm. She picked up like 10 pounds of asparagus for me. So we are steaming that in butter at the end before we eat. Mika also made these brownies for dessert. They just came from a package, so no recipe there. She stirred in half a bag of marshmallows and half a bag of chocolate chips and baked them like that. Here she is just picking some lettuce from the garden for the salad because she is obsessed with salad like I am, and she's obsessed with the garden like I am, and so she is my big helper with this. I do wish our tomatoes were producing, but they aren't yet, so we still don't have any tomatoes for our salad. But as you can see, Mika's super happy about the lettuce. And we also added a few pieces of Swiss chard that were already ready and some parsley out of the garden as well to our salad mix. Here is the finished butter bread out of the oven. I did take it out the last 5 minutes and baste it with some butter and then put it back in to finish. I just sliced it up and set it to the side to go with dinner. Now the asparagus, we just snapped off the end, threw it in the pan with the butter, added just maybe a teaspoon of lemon juice and about a tablespoon of garlic, and we just kind of cooked it until they were kind of crispy soft. So here is the finished manicotti. I just turned it down to warm. It is ready to go, and it's kind of just basically like a glorified lasagna because it falls apart when you take it out of slow cooker. But anyway, on to the second meal. We did ribs, and I also did a bunch of smoked corn, some jalapeno bread, some cheddar bread, mac and cheese, and some baked potatoes. So let's jump right in and talk about how we made the bread. Here is the recipe for the bread, which will also be in the description box below. I used a cottage cheese bread recipe because I was just going to make cottage cheese bread. And then while it was in the bread machine, I thought to myself, James keeps asking me to make jalapeno cheddar bread. So when it was done with the dough cycle, I went ahead and decided to turn it into jalapeno cheddar bread, but you could easily just leave this cottage cheese bread if you wanted to. My kids love the cottage cheese bread. It is really moist and fluffy. But anywho, I will share, like I said, in the description box below the recipe for the cottage cheese bread, and I will also below it add what I added to make the cheddar bread and for the cheddar jalapeno bread. So right now I'm just adding everything into my pan for my bread machine. I'm going to set it to dough for 2 pounds, and when it's done, I will show you how I made the bread itself into the 2 loaves of bread. I would also like to ask you a question while I'm working on this and adding my yeast and all that good stuff. Where you are you able to find yeast? Are you having trouble finding it? I still have quite a bit in my freezer, but I've been picking up packets of yeast here and there when I see them just because they have them in stock and sometimes they don't. So anyways, moving on, the bread is going. Maddie is helping me make a rib rub, which will also be in the description box below. It was awful chaotic. I cannot talk today. It was chaotic. Mixing spices with a toddler. She was super helpful. She loves to help too, and so she was helping me. But like I said, I'll share this recipe in the description box below. I did add a tablespoon of Worcestershire, which was not in the recipe, and if you have kids or people who don't like spicy food, I would definitely only put like half or no cayenne in there if I was you, because it does make them spicy if you put the amount of cayenne in there that the recipe called for many years ago. Why can I not talk today? Many years ago when I wrote this recipe down, and I have kept it, and usually when I make it, I put like half the cayenne in there that it calls for. So anyways, the rub is all mixed up. I have taken the ribs out of the package, which, by the way, I picked these up at Anthony's the other day for 99 cents a pound, so they were like $11 for 2 slabs of ribs. I bought 2 packages. Anyways, I'm rubbing them down. I already took them out of the package, washed them. I cut the back and pulled that tissue off the back because it makes them more tender when they cook. And now I'm just rubbing them down on both sides. I'm going to let them sit about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to get them out on the smoker, and I'm just going to let them cook all day because we like to just kind of slow cook things while we're working out in the yard. So that's what we're doing with these. Now I have about half a pound of cubed up cheese and about 6 or 8 chopped up jalapeno slices, and here is my bread dough ready to go. I also already oiled both of these silicone baking pans. I recently switched to silicone. I love them. Things don't stick in them, and it's really easy to get things like muffins out without having to use the paper liners. So anyways, I do have glass pans. I do have, what are they, stainless or whatever, metal bread pans. I use them if I'm making a bunch of bread in a day, but today I'm only making 2 loaves, so I'm just going to use the 2 silicone pans. Now I've divided the dough in half, and I'm just kind of flattening it out a little, and I'm going to add a little row of cheese cubes, kind of roll it, and then add another row and roll it, and so forth until I get to the end of the end of the loaf of bread, and then I'm going to tuck the ends around underneath just to keep the cheese from oozing out of the side of the loaf of bread while it cooks. And then I'll just get it into the bread pan. So here I have the loaf rolled up, and like I said, I'm just tucking the ends under, trying to make sure it is the length of the bread pan itself, and kind of massaging the cheese around, making sure that it's sticking into the dough really good. Here I'm just getting it into my bread pan, and I'm going to let it sit and rise for a while I work on the other loaf, and both loaves will sit for about 20 minutes before I get them in the oven. Now I'm going to work on the jalapeno cheese bread. I figured the kids may not want the jalapeno cheese, so this will be mostly for the adults because we are having company for dinner tonight. Now again, I'm just working the dough out into a kind of thick rectangle shape, and I'm going to start working the cheese and the jalapenos into the bread. And I will add the cheese cubes and the jalapeno slices and roll, and then add more cheese and jalapenos and roll until I get to the end again, and then I will tuck the ends underneath again as well. I am reserving some cheese and jalapenos to go on the top of the loaves because I like that crispy cheese on the top of the loaf of bread when you buy the jalapeno cheese or cheddar bread like that. And so that is what I'm going to do to mine. After I get them in the pans, I'm adding the leftover cheese and jalapenos to both loaves, and then I'm going to cover them with a warm, wet rag and let them sit for, like I said, 20-ish minutes, and then I'll get them in the oven at 325. And I really don't know how long it took them to cook, probably 20-ish minutes. I just check bread as it cooks. I'll pull the oven open, and I'll just kind of tap on the top of it with my finger. If it sounds hollow, I know it's done. And that's how I do my bread. If it sounds hollow, I'll pull it out, I'll butter it, and then I'll put it back in for a few minutes. So here, it's in the pan. I'm adding the leftover cheese and jalapenos, and then I'll grab the other one and add a few extra pieces of cheese to it as well. And like I said, I will add the recipe for all of this in the description box in case you want to try this yourself. You could easily just do a white bread or any other variation of bread really that you want to do, and then just do the jalapeno and cheese if you wanted to. But we just do like this cottage cheese bread. It is really moist, and it also is a good way to use up leftover cottage cheese. So anyways, I'm going to let these sit, rise, and then I'll come back and pop them in the oven. Here they are before rising, here they are after, and they are going to go in the oven. I do put my silicone pans on top of a baking sheet when I put them in the oven because it's easier to handle them that way. Here they are finished and cooling down. This is just a side note. When I went to Anthony's and bought the ribs and saw a case of corn for $9.60, I bought it. It's like 50 ears. So here is the finished dinner, and we are going to eat. I just did a couple boxes of mac and cheese and some baked potatoes in the microwave. James and my friend Emily are getting the ribs cut up and ready to serve, and we are going to eat dinner. They have a pretty much standing dinner date with us every Saturday night. So yeah, anyways, moving on. Our next dinner is stroganoff and salad because we have so much lettuce in the garden right now. So I took a pound of ground beef and a big gallon-sized Ziploc bag of mushrooms. I'm cooking it and adding some onion soup mix and about a tablespoon of garlic. Now I'm just going to let this cook until the mushrooms are cooked through because they were frozen. And then I'm going to start adding cream of mushroom soup to that. It's a big family-sized can. I do stroganoff different all the time. It just depends on what I have on hand. If I have cream of mushroom, if I have stuff like just broth and cornstarch, I'll do it like that. It's, like I said, whatever I have on hand. So I'm adding this cream of mushroom. I'm going to add about a, I don't know, cupish of sour cream and a bunch of black pepper. And I'm going to get this all stirred up, and then over in another pan, I'm going to boil a bunch of egg noodles. I have 2 big 12-ounce bags, and so I'm going to make a ton of stroganoff. It is a favorite meal in our house of James and the kids, so it will get wiped out and there will be no leftovers. So I'm just getting my sauce stirred up. I'm going to let it simmer over here while the noodles boil, and then I'll get it all combined. And I will show you what it looks like when I get this big pot of stroganoff finished. And I'll also show you the salad we're throwing together to go with it. So here is our sauce all mixed up and ready to add the noodles to. And over here I have my water that is taking forever to come to a boil. I have 2 of these bags of these extra wide egg noodles. And like I said, I'm cooking both because usually the bags say like a pound, but these are only 12 ounce. Okay, so we have our leaf lettuce, we have some tomatoes. This is Miss Maddie's plate. She only has a little bit because I'm not sure how hungry she is. She has been snacking all day. So here is the finished stroganoff, and we're going to start getting kids' plates made up and getting them fed dinner. I also have pickles, olives, artichokes, all kinds of stuff sitting to the side for anybody that wants those on their salads. That is my plate. For us, stroganoff is an easy, like 20-ish minute dinner. So anyways, next meal, I have some boneless pork steaks I chunked up. I also have some of Aldi's table spice, pepper, and flour in one bowl, some egg and milk in another. Now I'm dipping the pork steak chunks into the milk and egg mixture, and then the flour, and then back in the milk, and then back in the flour, basically double breading it, and then I'm frying it up, kind of like a chicken fried steak. To go with this, I am also making a big pot of mashed potatoes and just a basic white gravy. Nothing special, nothing fancy, and not from scratch. It's just like $3.99 for the big bag that makes like several gallons of white gravy, and that's what I'm going to use some of. So as the pork steaks are getting kind of golden, I'm flipping them until they're golden on both sides, and then pulling them out of the oil and letting them drip on a broiler pan so that they aren't like soggy and greasy. Okay, so now I'm going to add some more steaks to this because, yeah, just going to keep going until I get them all done. And it's going to be a great big pile of these, and there will be extras. What we will do is the extras will get eaten for lunch tomorrow on biscuits. I don't know, the kids like them like that. So anyway, salad, again, all the olives, all the artichokes, all that fun stuff. And here is our mashed potatoes and gravy. As you can see, everybody's already started eating. Okay, anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing these 4 meals, and I hope they gave you some inspiration. If you have not already subscribed, I hope you will do so and give a thumbs up. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.